and getting to understand the ideology behind Zionism and why that went global with operations, as far as everything always culminating going back to Israel and Palestine and that section of the world, which we know is Palestine.
Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
I'm done.
And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
I'm done.
This is going to cover the end game. So what's been the end game of all this? So let's talk about October 7th. Let's just start there. Let's start with modern day things happening at the moment. Now with October 7th, it's being revealed, a lot of information is being debunked, and they were very much aware, just like 9/11, that October 7th was going to happen. So just watch this.
I'm going to play you the report that aired in Israeli media. It was originally in Hebrew. We have a dubbed English version. Now, we haven't been able to specifically verify this translation. However, we did check the key details, and they match up with other reporting, which is why we feel comfortable showing it to you, but just wanted to give you that disclaimer that we have not been able to officially verify this dubbed English translation. Nevertheless, let's take a listen to this report.
Almost 9 months to the return in October, while the IDF still hasn't published the investigations of the default, we are tonight revealing the intelligence document of 800-2 that was distributed only 2 weeks before that Sabbath, and gave the Southern Command an accurate picture of the raid plan on the OTEF, including the exact number of abductees that was rehearsed in advance by the terrorists.
The document that came to us was compiled in the Gaza Committee and was given the title Detailed End-to-End Raid Training. It was distributed on September 19, 2023, less than 3 weeks before the Hamas plan went into effect. The person who wrote it reveals in great detail a series of instructions from the elite unit of Hamas, the Nakba, to attack military outposts, kibbutzim. This document starts by discussing Hamas's military arms company training sequences. Sweating Division's intelligence staff meticulously trailed every tiny detail. At 11 in the morning, several companies were observed gathering for the beginning of the faith, not before prayer and lunch. At 12, equipment and weapons are distributed to the fighters, and then an exercise of when the company is ready. At 2 o'clock, the raid practices begin. The authors of the document detail a series of exercises carried out by Hamas forces before the attack. The military arm of the organization practiced ground and air raids on Israeli territory, in front of the eyes of the members of the Southern Command. The first step in the exercise, according to the document, is to open loopholes in the Dei Metzali situation, built in a strip that simulates the outposts in the Gaza envelope. After breaching the fence, they attack. The exercise was carried out by 4 companies, and each company was assigned a different station. The Israeli intelligence officers who followed the exercise formulated in the document the next steps after the break into Israeli territory and the takeover of the outposts. The handing over of the soldiers and prisoners to the company commanders. The expected number of hostages was written between 200 and 250 people. The military targets of the raid that were also practiced were described in the document. The headquarters of the bases, control and control headquarters. The synagogues at the bases, the squadron headquarters, the communications headquarters, Roayor systems, and the residences of the soldiers and female soldiers. And if what you have seen so far is not creepy enough, now it turns out that the intelligence of the Southern Command and the Gaza Strip was not only aware of the Hamas kidnapping plan, but in that document there is an exact breakdown of the conditions of the hostages' detention, including instructions for the kidnappers, and what to do in an extreme case, how to hold them, and under what conditions the kidnappers can be executed.
So you can hear from that report the level of detailed knowledge that they had just 2 weeks before October 7th. We can put this Jerusalem Post report up on the screen that again verifies a lot of the key details in that report, that dubbed English report we just brought you. They say, for example, the report detailed that Israeli intelligence officials monitored the Hamas exercises, documented the steps Hamas planned to take after breaching Israeli territory and taking over military posts. The expected number of hostages, according to the document, was between 200 and 250 people. Quote, Israeli intelligence officials who monitored the exercise detailed the next steps after breaching into Israel, taking over the post, determining that the instruction is to hand over the captured soldiers to the company commanders. The expected number of hostages, it states, is between 200 and 250 people.
56 of them were military and police. So 370. Why do you think the number came down from 1,400 to 1,129?
Because it was inaccurate.
No.
Why?
According to Israeli official, because so many bodies were so burned and so stuck together, they could not distinguish the Hamas fighters from the Israeli hostages, right? So that much fire that burns the body that much, do you think people with machine guns on motorcycle have that kind of fire? No, that was the firepower of tanks and Apache, and according to Israeli witnesses, Israel was a lot, according to a Hannibal directive, if people would like to actually look that up, Israel actually killed many of those hostages on the way out. As a matter of fact, one of the soldiers said, I saw a car running back to the borders, and I know that there were hostages, so I thought of killing everybody instead of taking them hostage. And that is so effective.
An investigation by the Israeli newspaper Haaretz has revealed that the Israeli army ordered the Hannibal Directive on October 7th last year. This controversial military policy aims to prevent the capture of Israeli soldiers by enemy forces at any cost. Based on testimonies from Israeli soldiers and senior army officers, the report indicates that during Hamas's attack last October, the Israeli army made decisions with limited and unverified information. The order stated that not a single vehicle can return to Gaza, implying significant consequences for those kidnapped along the Gaza border. On October 7th, Hamas captured dozens of Israelis, many of whom are still in captivity or have been killed in Israeli airstrikes on Gaza. Many of those captured were civilians, not soldiers, to whom the Hannibal Directive does not apply. The death toll from the Hamas-led attacks in Israel is estimated to be 1,139, with nearly 250 others taken captive. In Gaza, more than 38,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli attacks since October 7th. Haaretz reported that the Hannibal Directive was employed at 3 army facilities infiltrated by Hamas. Despite this, 7 soldiers were kidnapped and 15 spotters, as well as 38 other soldiers, were killed. The Hannibal Directive allows the use of maximum force to prevent abduction, even at the risk of killing a captive soldier. It was last invoked in 2014 during the war on Gaza. The directive is believed to have been revoked in 2016 due to criticism and its various interpretations within the army. A senior Israeli army source confirmed the use of the Hannibal procedure on October 7th. An Israeli army spokesperson said internal investigations are underway to learn from the events and that the results will be presented to the public with transparency.
You talk about the hostages. Israel has a Hannibal directive in which it has orders in place to kill at least its own soldiers, lest they fall into the hands of Palestinian groups. And there's substantial reporting that in fact, was utilized on October 7th, not just against Israeli soldiers, but against civilians. Are we not now in a situation where Israel may be using the Hannibal Directive, not just on Israelis, civilians and military, but on U.S. citizens and other foreign nationals?
So I am not familiar in any way with either that supposed directive or those reports. And so
you've never heard of the Hannibal?
Certainly would not want to comment on it.
You've never heard of the Hannibal
John,
Directive?
I thought you wanted to go out of the region.
Sure. And for those of you listening to the podcast, while he's asking this question, you see the Hannibal Directive headlines from mainstream outlets. This is covered. These are even Israeli propaganda newspapers have covered the Hannibal Directive.
Let me be clear. Hamas using rape, sexual violence, and terrorism and torture of Israeli women and girls is appalling and unforgivable. And you should, when I was there, saw some of the photographs. It's beyond comprehension.
We had 2 events last week. We had 3 panels about Ukraine, and they were superb. They went off without a hitch. We learned a lot and were challenged. 2 days later, we had panels on conflict-related sexual violence. It included Ukraine, Sudan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Israel. And it was protested. You just have to ask yourself how you could have an event focused on using rape as a tactic of war against women and girls, which is in conflict across the world, and you include the most recent horrendous example out of Israel, and that brings out the protesters. So there is an invidious strain of anti-Semitism that has never gone away, but we had hopes. It had been certainly submerged, that has been poking its head up for quite some time now.
15,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli airstrikes, 3/4 of whom are women and children.
And it's horrible, but you don't see Israeli soldiers raping
well, Dana, I
Palestinian
think
women.
we're not...
I could probably do entire monologues about each of those clips, but the last one with Dana Bash really gives up the game. Sure, Palestinians getting killed, it's terrible, but at least they aren't getting raped like Israeli women. In a lengthy investigation into abuse of Palestinians at an Israeli military base turned prison, they write that Palestinians were subjected to brutal beatings, electric shocks, intentional degradation, including being forced to wear only diapers, and sexual assault. Quote, Mr. Al-Hamlawi, the senior nurse, said a female officer had ordered 2 soldiers to lift him up and press his rectum against a metal stick that was fixed to the ground. He said the stick penetrated his rectum for roughly 5 seconds, causing it to bleed and leaving him with unbearable pain. But there will be no congressional resolutions about these assaults, no Sheryl Sandberg film, no convenings with Hillary Clinton to discuss why we should hashtag believe Palestinian men. Because Bibi and Biden, they never cared about human rights or protection from sexual assault. Hell, they don't even actually care about Israeli women since they're content to continue to let hostages languish in Gaza with no ceasefire deal. They care about cynical emotional manipulation for their own political ends and to justify their own atrocities. Conference about similar content. So let's take a listen to the segment and we can react on the other side.
What's worse, to get kidnapped, to be raped, or to get shot? That is a quote from Tali Biner. It's what she said she was asking herself amid the chaos at the Nova Music Festival in Israel on October 7th.
Those videos do not exist. The Congresswoman is lying. And again, this is not my words. I'm reading from the Pramila Patten, UN Special Representative, Sexual Violence and Conflict report. She says the mission team, specifically the forensic pathologist, the digital analyst, reviewed over 5,000 photos, around 50 hours, and several audio files of footage of the attacks provided by various state agencies through an independent online review of various open sources to identify potential instances and indications of conflict-related sexual violence. She goes on to say, while the mission team reviewed that extensive digital material depicting a range of egregious violations, no digital evidence specifically depicting acts of sexual violence was found in open source.
Now let's talk about October 7th. October 7th is a atrocity. It's a terrorist attack. It's terrible. Anthony Blinken went in front of Congress and he testified about an incident.
A family of 4, a young boy and girl, 6 and 8 years old, and their parents around the breakfast table. The father, his eye gouged out in front of his kids. The mother's breast cut off. The girl's foot amputated. The boy's fingers cut off before they were executed. And then their executioners sat down and had a meal.
That is a direct testimony from Zaka and Hadzullah United.
They killed the husband first. They took his eyes out. I saw the body by myself. They cut the breast of the woman. They cut the leg of girl.
2 relief groups from Israel that they have actually been exposed that all of the stuff that they said has been lies, and they have collected more than $50 million of donations.
כן, אני אספתי ילדים ותינוקות בלי ראש.
Our volunteers, when they came into the homes and they saw the children beheaded. If they were not busy raping women, they would have continued to Jerusalem.
Because of these unverified lies, and this has been reported by the Israeli media, Haaretz, Channel 13, and Time of Israel.
ושם תופסות אותי עוד 2 תמונות, באמת, חוץ מתום, אין שם שום דבר אחר, שנשחטו ופשוט הרגו אותם.
אתה רואה את הילדים?
בית, שמונה תינוקות. שמונה תינוקות מתים.
נרצחו 8 תינוקות במעון בבארי מבהיר. ילדים, תינוקות שנתלו על חבל כביסה ממש בשורה אחת. אנחנו בכפר עזה, אבל לכפר עזה הבהירו מזמן שהאירוע הזה פשוט לא קרה.
Pregnant women, cut open.
גם זה לא קרה. לראות שגם בייחוד הצלה הפיצו בזמנו את הסיפור הפיקטיבי על כך שתינוק הושם בתוך תנור.
You've seen burn body, but in the same time in Israel people talk about the Hannibal Directive, where the Israelis went in and indiscriminately they shot Hellfire missiles from Apache. They shot shells from tanks. There is an Israeli survivor, her name is Yasmin Porat. She came on a podcast and she talked about being in a house with 14 other hostages and 40 terrorists and said everybody was alive, and then the Israelis started to shooting all the 40 terrorists and 12 out of the 14 hostages were killed. That's an 85% kill rate.
הטרוריסטים ירו בהם?
לא.
או זה כוחותינו ירו בהם?
חד משמעית. לא את כולם, כולל הבני ערובה.
Now, let's talk about the decapitated babies. According to the official Israeli records, one baby was killed, Mila Cohen, 10 months, 12 children from the age to 2 to 9, 36 from the age from 12 to 19, a total of 49 innocent children who should never have been killed or even touched on that day. The biggest casualty was 421 people from the age of 20 or 40. The total number of people that killed with that day, 1,129 people. 373 of them were police and military, and 759 civilians. No rape, no decapitation, nothing. All of these were refuted. Even the New York Times piece and the Guardian retracted them because they were taken for a ride. Does it make it less horrific that there are just 759 just killed, most of them killed by firepower from the Israeli? No, it's still horrific. But you created that image so people now are prepared and prepped to go in and kill everyone. This is blind rage. The 40 decapitated baby became a myth and everybody now believes. So if I talk about them, nobody wants to
I don't think everybody believes it.
But it was used as an emotional way to suck money, 50 million, and to allow people to say, all right, go and kill everybody. Right now, as we're speaking, the uncles and the cousins of my children in Gaza, they have lost all of their homes. They are still alive. They are all now cramped in one apartment in one building in Rafah. And as we speak, one bomb can drop on them right now, annihilating my whole family. And that happened because of lies that were propagated, making people accept that Israel can go and do whatever they want.
They took the eyes out.
Raping women.
The mother's breast cut off.
And pregnant women, cut open.
Are you seriously keep on asking me about Palestinian civilians? What's wrong with you?
That's a shameful anti-Semitic equation.
When the ICC investigates Israel for fake war crimes, this is pure anti-Semitism.
From the river to the sea is anti-Semitic.
Those calling for a ceasefire are legitimizing anti-Semitism.
Hey guys, if you want to watch more clips, click here.
And if you want to watch the full podcast, click right here.